You're watching Football Daily, and here is this week's XI with 11 players who ruined another's career. Goalkeeper, Harold Schumacher. Patrick Patterson had a great career, winning the French league on 5 occasions and also being a part of the French national side that won the 1984 European Championship. But 2 years earlier, Patterson made the back pages for a different reason, when Le Blues faced off against West Germany in the semi-final of the 1982 World Cup. With the game tied at 1-1, Patterson came off the bench and just 10 minutes after being introduced, found himself with a golden opportunity, one-on-one with German keeper Harold Schumacher. The France international was clattered by a charging Schumacher who hit Patterson like a torpedo. Patterson was left on the floor unconscious, with his teammates and fans looking on in disbelief. After he was stretchered off, it was confirmed that he had lost 2 front teeth, had 3 broken ribs, a broken jaw and serious damage to his vertebrae. To make matters even worse, France went on to lose that game, with the German keeper showing little remorse. On being told the extent of the injury, he simply said, "I will pay for the crowns." The incident is known as the Tragedy of Seville, and Patterson was left with permanent damage to his spine. Defender, Dan Smith. No player sums up late 2000s Arsenal than Abu Dhabi. The Frenchman arrived as a 19-year-old for just £2 million in January 2006, and despite his age, he immediately impressed the Gunners faithful, with his combination of technique and rangy athleticism. Having turned down Chelsea's advances, Diaby looked like the long-time heir to 30-year-old Gilberto Silva, until Dan Smith came along. On the 1st of May, just 2 weeks away from the Champions League final where they would face Barcelona, Arsenal played Sunderland. The Black Cats were already relegated, having earned 15 points all season, and were 3-0 down in the final minutes when 19-year-old defender Smith lunged at Diaby with his studs up, fracturing the midfielder's ankle and rupturing his ligaments. It was Smith's 3rd appearance in the Prem, and it would turn out to be his last, with the fullback going on to play in the Conference. But he left a lasting impression on Diaby, who had 3 surgeries and sat out 8 months, including the CL final and a World Cup final with France, with Arsene Wenger briefly suggesting that the tackle demanded legal action. Over a decade on, Diaby has only twice managed more than 20 games in a season, boasting fewer career matches than 22-year-old Dele Alli. Defender, Persil Bali. Ivorian French defender Persil Bali had an excellent career, winning 2 titles with Marseille and 1 with Rangers, as well as earning 45 caps for Les Blues. He also conquered Europe, scoring the only goal of the 1993 Champions League final, as a Marseille side featuring Didier Deschamps and Marcel Desailly defeated Fabio Capello's legendary Milan team. The goal wasn't Bali's only contribution to the match though, as a crunching tackle from behind on Marco van Basten effectively ended the Dutchman's career. The striker, who had won 3 Ballon d'Ors and 2 European Cups with the Rossoneri, had struggled with ankle problems for years, but still managed to be the top scorer in Italy twice. Hitting 25 in 31 games in 1992, the highest tally in Serie A in 20 years, thanks to the focus on defensive football in the country. A succession of medical procedures led Van Basten to say, "The person who damaged my ankle was not a player, but a surgeon." Though Bali certainly played his part, as Van Basten spent 2 years trying to recover from the damage done in that final, missing the 1994 World Cup before eventually retiring in 1995, having not spent a second on the field in 27 months. Defender, Martin Taylor. 4 players into our XI, and we're already onto our second Arsenal player. Eduardo was born in Brazil but moved to Croatia with Dinamo Zagreb at 16. By 19 he had earned a Croatian citizenship and ended up playing 64 times for the country, scoring 29 goals. Meanwhile, his form at club level was frightening, with 73 goals in 103 league matches for Dynamo by the time he was 24. That enticed Arsenal into a £7.5 million bid, as they looked to replace the departing Thierry Henry, and he scored 12 goals over the first half of the season, to put the Gunners top of the league by February, until Eduardo had his leg broken in a horror tackle by Birmingham City defender Martin Taylor. Taylor received a red card, and his challenge was so bad that Sky Sports refused to show replays of the incident, while Arsene Wenger said Taylor should never play again. Sepp Blatter even got involved, suggesting that Taylor receive a longer ban than the usual 3 games, but he was ultimately ignored, though Taylor never played in the Premier League again. Eduardo did, but missed the whole of the following season, and only once managed to hit 10 league goals again in the 11 campaigns since. Defender, Hector Moreno. Man United fans were delighted in 2014 when they beat Chelsea to the signing of Southampton's Luke Shaw, paying a then massive £30 million to make him the most expensive teenager in the history of football. At that time, the left-back had just made the PFA Team of the Year and had an excellent injury record, having made 60 league appearances over the previous 2 campaigns. But 4 years on, he's only managed 43 for United. Hamstring injuries and suspensions marred the youngster's first season at Old Trafford, but 15-16 was expected to signal his arrival, as he started the first 5 league matches, impressing in all the games. But when the Champions League rolled around, Shaw's resurgence came to a screeching halt when a filthy challenge from PSV Eindhoven's Hector Moreno left him with a double leg fracture. Moreno wasn't even booked for the tackle and went on to score in a 2-1 win for PSV, even being named man of the match. Shaw, on the other hand, was out for 7 months before he could even return to training, and struggled to get back to match fitness on his return. He's made just 11 league appearances in each of the 2 years since, and won only 3 England caps, fewer than he did in 2014 alone. Defender, Denis Irwin. Man United's class of 92 usually gets all the praise, but the Red Devils' success in the late 90s was as much down to dependable professionals as it was the young superstars. Denis Irwin was the perfect example of the former, a left-back who played 30 or more league matches in 14 of his 21 seasons in the game, and made over 500 appearances for United. In 12 years under Alex Ferguson, Irwin won 7 titles and the Champions League, and was voted into the PFA Team of the Season. But the Irishman was as tough as he was talented, and a 1996 matchup with Coventry City showed just how tough. The game had just started when Irwin and teammate Brian McClare both went up to clear a Coventry corner, challenging the Sky Blues' Dave Bust. However, Bust got caught between his 2 markers, and when he fell to the ground, he broke his tibia and fibula in multiple places, spraying the turf with blood. It was thought they would have had his leg amputated, but 26 operations managed to save it, though not his career, with Bust retiring 7 months later. Midfielder, Artur Yidagarian. We'll forgive you for not having heard of Artur Yidagarian, though the midfielder has won 42 caps for Armenia alongside Henrik Mkhitaryan. Now 30, he spent most of his career in his homeland, winning 5 titles as well as playing in Russia, Ukraine, Iran and Belarus. But it was an international friendly in 2014 which put him in the headlines. Armenia faced Germany, who were 3 weeks out from a World Cup they were tipped to win. Die Mannschaft had won 9 and drawn 1 of their 10 qualifiers, with Marco Reus scoring 5 and assisting 3 in 6 appearances. The Dortmund forward was in blistering form, having netted 16 and assisted 14 in 30 matches for his club, and was expected to make the difference in Brazil. Until Yidagarian slid in late on him, taking out the wide man's ankle and leaving him pounding the turf in anger and pain. Reus had torn his ankle ligament and missed Germany lifting the World Cup. Having missed just 11 Bundesliga games out of 170 in the 5 seasons before the tackle, he missed 62 over the following 4 campaigns, robbing the football world of a magical talent, and Reus's mantelpiece of the medal he deserved. Midfielder, Thorben Marks. Chances are you haven't heard much about Thorben Marks, and you aren't going to now. Instead, we want to talk about Owen Hargreaves, a Canadian-born Englishman who came through Bayern Munich's academy in the late 90s. Hargreaves debuted for the Bavarians at 19 and was soon a regular, winning a Bundesliga and Champions League double in his first season. England came calling, and Hargreaves was named the team's best player at the 2006 World Cup, over Gerrard, Lampard and Beckham. The sky seemed like the limit for the 25-year-old, but shortly afterwards, during a league defeat against Armenia Bielefeld, the midfielder collided with Thorben Marks, breaking his left leg and limiting him to 9 appearances that campaign. Despite his shaky health, Man United signed Hargreaves the following summer for £17 million, and he won another double in 2008. However, United got just 27 league games out of him in 4 years, meaning they paid over £600,000 per game. And even a switch to the blue side of Manchester couldn't fix the player. His one appearance in Man City's title-winning campaign of 2011-12 failing to qualify him for a medal. Midfielder, Shaun Wright-Phillips. Having your leg broken by an opponent is one thing, but getting injured by a teammate is even more embarrassing. And that's exactly what happened to Dean Ashton in August 2006. The striker, then 23, had moved to West Ham in January and enjoyed a strong end to the season, scoring 6 in 16, including 1 in the FA Cup final, though the Irons ultimately came up short against Liverpool. That earned him a first England call-up, but in training the day before a game against Greece, the forward was flattened by a rough challenge from Chelsea's Shaun Wright-Phillips, fracturing his ankle. He missed the whole of the following season, and West Ham, who had finished 9th with him, struggled without, spending 23 weeks of the season in the relegation zone before escaping at the death. Ashton made a comeback, but after being named in the England squad for a second time, a ligament injury once again meant he couldn't pull on his nation's shirt. He ended the 2007-8 campaign with 10 in 31, and finally, after 2 years and 3 call-ups, he made his international debut playing for Fabio Capello's team against Trinidad and Tobago. But it would prove his only cap, as poor health led to Ashton announcing his retirement in December 2009, citing Wright Phillips' tackle as the reason for his persistent injury troubles. He later sued the Football Association for compensation, claiming £10 million in loss of earnings. Forward, Rolf Landl. Austrian striker Rolf Landl was never a top-class forward, enjoying a journeyman career across his homeland, the Netherlands, Portugal and Slovakia, and earning just 1 international cap. However, that call-up turned to be eventful for one unlucky German player, wonder kid Sebastian Diesler. An energetic midfielder, Diesler was always plagued by poor fitness, suffering a cruciate ligament injury at 19, but nonetheless going on to impress at Hertha, where he spent 3 years. However, he lost the support of fans in October 2001, when newspapers revealed that he had agreed to join Bayern Munich the following summer, while he was recovering from a torn membrane in his knee. Diesler worked hard at regaining fitness, keen to return to the national setup in time for the 2002 World Cup, and by May he was playing for Germany again, making 3 appearances, the third in a 6-2 victory over Austria. Diesler was on the pitch for just 22 minutes before a tussle with Landl left him clutching his already dodgy knee, and manager Ruud Voller refused to risk the 22-year-old's career by taking him to the World Cup. Unfortunately, Diesler never fully recovered, missing Euro 2004 and World Cup 2006, and only once making more than 20 appearances in a season. He retired at 27, having won 3 titles from the bench. Forward, Vava. You may not have heard of Vava, but you should have. The Atletico Madrid forward led the line for Brazil at the 1958 and 1962 World Cups, winning the tournament on both occasions. In 1962, he ended up top scorer, something Pelé never achieved, and he is one of just 4 men to score in more than 1 World Cup final, along with Pelé, Zidane and Paul Brittner. However, Vava might never have earned a medal in 1958 if it weren't for a clash with French captain Robert Jonquette. Brazil were playing Le Blues in the semi-final, and the 2 sides were deadlocked after 35 minutes, with Vava getting on the score sheet as well as Just Fontaine, who would eventually win the Golden Boot with 13 goals in 6 games. Vava collided with Jonquette, and though the defender was left limping, substitutes were not allowed yet, and the Reims man was forced to continue. Brazil took the lead 4 minutes later. At half-time, Jonquette was given an injection to numb the pain, and spent the second half hobbling uselessly around the field, as the Seleção ran out 5-2 winners, with 17-year-old Pelé scoring a hat-trick. It turned out that Jonquette had broken his fibula, and though he would help Reims reach a second European Cup final in 1959 and return to the national team, he was never the same again. He retired in 1962.
So I hope you guys liked that video. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed that, why not check out the video on screen right now? I'm sure it is great. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe.